Yo guys, this is Reinhardt, your favorite Russian talking, and question for you: are you ready to be a professional dick? Do you take enjoyment in annoying the shit out of the enemy players? If you are, well then you have two profession choices: either be a rogue or a blood decay. Because quite honestly, blood decays are looking fun. Their biggest strengths, in my opinion, would be actually the support, CC support, kills, and everything else. However, the biggest bad thing about the blood decays is basically their damage. So let's talk about the damage numbers here really quickly. First of all, we have our disease called the blood plague, and which is essentially applied by your blood boil, which makes it very easy to spread your diseases. And the blood boil doesn't cost any runes at all, so you pretty much can just run around and apply diseases to the entire city of Earth. Spread lots of AIDS. But the biggest thing about that is that every tick of a blood plague heals you for roughly about almost just a bit under 1% of your HP. So, and it actually crit heals too for more than 1% of your HP. So basically what happens, especially if you have your Fallen Crusader proc and everything else, if you have it approximately on a 5 to 6 targets in basically RBG or BG, then you are getting healed almost like 5 or 6% every 3 seconds, which is basically a second wind at any point HP in time, and it's very easy to stack that. In arena, you will be healed about 1% of your HP passively just by having disease on the 3 targets. So, if you have a hard time applying disease to multiple targets, just make sure you are using your blood boil on the 1 or 2 targets, and then probably have a focus macro for the death crest, which is 30-yard range, and also applies the blood plague. So having that on the 3 targets in arena is super easy, and you're basically gonna get healed at approximately rate of 1% HP a second, which is really good for blood decays. So disease does minor damage. It's not super like threatening or anything else like that, but it is kind of cool. The next thing we have is our Mortar Rend, which is basically our kind of a biggest rune consumption. It gives you shit tons of bone shield stacks, 4 approximately, and then at the same time does a decent minor damage and increase your rune regeneration speed. So you're pretty much going to be running at approximately 20% damage reduction at all times, no matter what you do. And you can actually stack up your bone shield stacks, I believe to like 10. Yep. The next thing we have is a Blood Strike. Blood Strike is a single target rune consumptive ability that does damage and slows the target by 30% and also generates 5 bonus runic power. So it's like 15 runic power generation. Third one is our beloved Deathstrike. Deathstrike does 51k damage. So basically the damage of, you know how much I bitched about Unholy Decay not doing a lot of damage? Well, Blood Decay does about half of Unholy's damage. So really not that much. However, his survivability is just off the roof. The amount of healing you can do is absolutely insane by spreading your dots, by having a bone shield stacks almost on you all the time, and at the same time doing a death strikes for healing. So, which is pretty awesome. Now, the biggest thing about the Blood Strike could be a really good damaging ability if we pick the last one, which is Blood for Blood, and I'll talk about it later on. I'll go over the talents. Other than that, everything else kind of utilities stay the same, except a couple minor things. Minor thing is we lost Chain of Ice. That's why I say Blood Decays are going to be annoying, is because they will be kited forever, but for melee to go up against a Blood Decay, it's just gonna be annoying because you have to get in the melee against the Decay, but at the same time, every time you get in the melee against a Blood Decay, you essentially gonna heal him. So, Death Grip, he has AoE Death Grip baseline too as a utility, which is pretty awesome. And that's about it when it comes to just a baseline abilities. We also have a Wraith Walk, which is basically our CC on ourselves to get out of snares. And that's it. However, the talents offer a lot of depth, quite a bit. So first of all, let's go for the first one. We have a Hard Strike, which is basically does the same amount of damage, but it actually cleaves the targets as well, which is pretty decent, I guess. gives you a little bit more runic power, but I don't think it's really worth picking it compared to the Bloodworms, which gives you extra survivability, which is also kind of not really that much needed. Pretty much here, when Deathstrike kills you above your HP, you create the Bloodworms. However, this one, I really enjoyed this ability. It's called Consume Vitality. It's pretty much a 50k DPS per second. And you consume Vitality, basically you channel the ability, it does damage, and then you heal yourself for the damage that you cause. Really gives it that awesome, like, kind of a vampiric feel to the blood decays. So, against the spell cleaves, I would go for the Consume Vitality. Against the melee cleaves, I would go with either Heartstrike or the Bloodworms, depending how much I'm gonna get focused. But I'm pretty sure I'm most likely gonna go with a Heartstrike against the melee cleaves, if I would play a Blood Decay. The next tier talent, we have a Rabid Composition, which is pretty much... The next tier talent is kind of actual lackluster. So we have a Rabid Decomposition. Your Dust and Decay deals 25% more damage to the targets affected by your Blood Plague and generates 1 rune when it deals damage. So the only thing it's really good for is generating those extra runes, basically. So you come in there, you put the diseases up, and then basically you put your Dust and Decay up. And GG, enjoy basically shit tons of runes. So, that's basically it. And every damage of a Blood Decay is actually not that bad. So, the next one is Soulforge. Consume the Blood Plague within 30-yard range, dealing 17,000 damage, which is a little bit more than the Blood Boil. It replaces Blood Boil, by the way. And empowering you for 24 seconds, up to 15% rune regeneration per plague. Plagues closer to the expiration grant more rune regeneration. So, basically, I don't think it's worth it at all because we want to spread our diseases, especially at the no cost of our runes in PvP. In PvE, I could see how it could be useful for survivability, having extra rune generation, gives you more Deathstrikes, gives you more Mororens, but in PvP, not so much. And then we have Ossuary, freaking English. Setting in Dust and Decay causes more rend to hit all other targets for 30% of the damage. This is nice, but I kind of like Rapid Decomposition because it does give us extra runes. Then that's basically it. The next one is kind of also not so much of a talent tree. So like the 57, 58, I really don't like those talent trees because they don't really offer that much of a difference. While Dancing Rune Weapon is active, attacks cannot damage you more than 30% of your maximum health. That's a PvE talent only. Vampiric Blood instantly energizes 1 rune and increases your rune generation by 10% for its duration. So Vampiric Blood, basically it's a 1.5 minute cooldown, gives you extra HP, increases your healing, makes you heal a lot with your Deathstrikes, and lasts 10 seconds. So basically it gives you 10% rune, gives you 1 rune instantly and gives you 10% rune power regeneration over 10 seconds. Which essentially it's kind of gives you 1 extra rune if you think about it. And then the Anti-Magic Barrier, Anti-Magic Shell also increases your maximum health by 25%. Probably this one out of anything I would actually pick. The reason why is because every time we pop our Anti-Magic Shell, we get more health. More health, meaning that our Deathstrikes... So how much Deathstrike is gonna heal? Deathstrike healed for 214k HP, and then if we're gonna use the Deathstrike normally... Deathstrike heals for 171k HP. So basically, if you have a lot of runic power, like say if you have 100 runic power, then go ahead, pop AMS and do a couple Deathstrikes against melee cleaves. You're actually gonna heal more from that. The third one is almost pretty much a Mark of Blood. It's probably gonna be the best one out here. Rune Tap, you can tap twice for 20% of your HP, which is okay. Purgatory in PvP, it's really not that great. However, Mark of Blood is freaking amazing for PvP. Why? Well, the reason why is because Mark of Blood is actually affecting everybody. So let's say your enemy rogue is trying to kill your healer, you put a Mark of Blood on him, he starts healing your healer. Now what essentially is going to happen is that, I'm not sure if it's dispellable or not, I have yet to test it, but if it is dispellable, we can actually strangulate the healer and pop a Mark of Blood on DPS and pretty much deny a kill. DPS has to either get off your ally or keep attacking him and keep healing them. So, that's basically it, which is pretty awesome. So, The next one is we have a Tightening Grasp, reduces a cooldown of your girlfriend's grasp by 60 seconds. It's a 3-minute cooldown, so it goes down by 1 minute. March of the Damned, become immune to roots, snares, and stuns for 6 seconds. Does not remove those existing effects. This one is fucking OP as shit. Enemies damaged by your Dust Decay have a chance to cover in place for 3 seconds, but cannot suffer this effect more than once every 10 seconds. For the Blood Decays, cooldown of Dust Decay is 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds you can pop it. There you go. Feared 1, Feared 2. They get feared quite a lot. Like Dust Decay does fear a lot. Now imagine a Blood Decay fighting against the other melee cleave. Every time they get connected, he pretty much puts a Dust Decay on the ground and just laughs. Okay, instant fear on this guy. Rejected. Fear on this guy. This guy got feared at the last. My rate I think is like 20% chance per tick basically to cast the fear off. And most likely it is actually a guaranteed fear than anything else. So that's kind of fun. So this one is a must, and this is why what will make Blood Decays annoying as fuck is because every time they try to kill your healer, every time anything is gonna have to happen, you just pop on Dust and Decay and watch them cover in place. You basically fear, you get a 3-second fear on a 15-second cooldown. That's pretty nasty. Next one we have a 90 talents, a Will of Necropolis. Reduce all damage taken by 20% while you are below 35% HP, which works really great with your existing Bone Shield as well. Exhume. Gain a charge of a Bone Shield every 1 second for 5 seconds. We have no problem having a Bone Shield in PvP, so I think Exhume is actually kind of worthless. And Foul Bulwark is each charge of Bone Shield increases your maximum health by 3%, which is really nice too, because if you're going to be using Marrow Rents, if you're going to be using Rapid Decomposition, and essentially you're going to be getting a lot of runes, then yeah, you can do it. So yeah, that would make sense. So between Necropolis and Foul Bulwark. And then that last one is we have a Blood Mirror, which is afflicts an enemy with a Blood Mirror for 10 seconds. While acting, 20% of the damage dealt to you is directed to the target. That's not really great for PvE. I can see the implications of it, but for PvP, not really. Blood Beast calls forth a pair of Blood Beasts to assist you in combat. Blood Beasts heal you and themselves for 50% of the damage they deal and share 10% of the damage you take. So basically use 10% damage reduction and 50% leech of the Blood Beast. And of course Bone Storm that heals you for 1% of your max HP every time it hits the target. So heals me for 24,000 per each target I did damage. So like this one right here healed me probably for 20-25% of my HP, and it's a 1 minute cooldown, which is pretty decent. 111k damage. It's not really 111k damage. It's actually healed me for 18% of HP if we can actually mathematically calculate 3 targets, 6-second duration. However, it's okay damage. I mean, not really like the most exciting damage ever. However, if you get to cleave, you might actually pull off probably upwards like 40k DPS with just this ability alone. So yeah, it's not that bad. And we're gonna test Blood Beast in about 12 seconds. 10, 9. Going on to the PvP talents, I'm gonna show you a few talents here as well. Basically, as a Blood Decay, like I said, you have to make sure you're setting up the kills and make sure you're denying as many kills as possible. So that's the kind of idea of Blood Decay, which I kind of actually find somewhat enjoyable. So let's get the stuff. So we summon the Blood Beast, and these guys look pretty awesome. And boy, the damage fucking sucks dick. What the hell is this thing? 4k, 8k? What is this damage? This is less damage than one freaking Marrow Rent. Obviously they're gonna get buffed and tuned up, because that damage is just really weak. Also, the question I have is actually, can a Dancing Rune weapon pop the Bone Storm or Blood Beast? And we're gonna test it out. Blood Beast is a 5-minute cooldown, so let's talk about the PvP talents. So for the PvP talents, for the second one is different. It gives you 15% damage increase, which is okay, but it's really not that much. It's not a great ability. Every time you get attacked, you get extra damage. And if nobody targets, then this talent is useless. And 50% of a crappy damage is still equals to crap. The next one is what actually probably will make Blood Decays viable in Arena. Essentially, it's murderous intent. Your Dark Command has a reduced range but causes the enemy player to be intimidated, increasing their damage taken by 20% for 6 seconds. Your melee attacks refresh the duration of the intimidated. Basically, the cooldown of your Dark Command is 8 seconds. So you will have permanently 20% increased damage taken by the target for almost life. And with the warrior getting benefit for 20% increased damage for his attacks, and if you actually get stacks of decomposing aura, all of a sudden warriors are gonna be you're gonna be their new BFF. You're gonna be like freaking Paris Hilton to Britney Spears. So, in Soften Blows, any non-periodic attack that deals less than 10% of your HP is reduced by 20%. This is also another really strong talent, as you have a Bone Shield, as you're gonna have this, as you're gonna have Will of Necropolis. We're gonna have approximately like 50% damage reduction below 35% HP. Which basically, as soon as you get to 35% HP, they still have to take 70% of your HP down. That's quite impressive. Here, I would go with either Dark Simulacrum or Anti-Magic Zone, but here, I would go with probably Heartstop Aura to be a professional dick. As a Blood Decay, you are gonna be a dick. You're gonna have a Fear on the 15-second cooldown. So yeah, plus, Decomposing Aura, I thought of taking it, but I don't like this. And the reason why I don't like it is actually very simple. If you look at it, it takes 5.2 seconds to tick it every single time, which doesn't make a lot of sense to actually do. 5.2 seconds, and you lose only 2% of the maximum health. And the second thing is, Blood Decay doesn't really have that much snares. You only have a crappy melee snare of 30%. So yeah, Decomposing Aura people will cut it off quite easily. However, this combined with the Murderous Intent will be quite lovely. Otherwise, I think Heartstop Aura will be hands down the best. Imagine 30% increase, cooldowns on everything, blinks, kidney shots, and you name it. Again, very good to reduce the kill potential from the enemies. Then we have Unholy Command. You have 2 Death Grips. You have Walking Dead, which is pretty shitty. It's only good against the Druid if they want to try to use Trello Form. Your Death Grip causes the target to be unable to move faster than normal movement speed for 8 seconds. And then we have Strangulate. Shadowy tendrils constrict the enemy's throat, silencing them for 5 seconds. I think the Strangulate is going to be a solid choice to take. The next one is going to be pretty much 2 choices, this and this. Blight. Just read it. Your Dust and Decay now instead conjures damage instead under up to 3 nearest enemies for 10 yards. So I want to see how much damage the Blight does. However, Death Chain is probably going to be the strongest to pick. I'm not sure, it doesn't say that it has a duration, so that means it might actually last permanent, but it does have a range restriction, which is 10 yards, which is going to be good against the melee cleaves. Chains 3 enemies together, dealing 27,000 shadow damage and causes 25% of all damage taken to be also received by the others in chain. Just a quick mathematics, if you have 2 targets with a Death Chain, and Warrior Blade Storms for 100k damage. 100k damage, 25k goes to the other one. 100k, 25k goes to the other one. You all of a sudden just increases the Blade Storm damage by 25%. What if you have a Murderous Intent on top of it? These two will actually provide Blood Decays with a really good utility to help their teams score kills, even despite that the Blood Decay's damage is actually relatively low. And then we have a Blood for Blood. Blood Strike's damage increased by 100%, but no longer costs a Death Rune, but costs 5% of your total health. So it's actually not a bad talent. Although Blood Strikes do hit relatively weak, 41k with both Trinket procs, it's kind of a Debbie Downer actually. So 39k, 40k, let's just use this. 34k, so it's gonna hit for 70k. So really, I don't, unless you're dueling somebody, I don't really find that all that great. So I would pick a Dust Chain. So that said, that's the Blood Decay. Oh yeah, I wanna test something. So let's have you. Oh, it does. It doesn't. It doesn't. I wonder if the double disease is still possible. Nope, they took out the double diseases too. Ah, what a dickbags. But hey, that bone shield on a freaking dancing rune weapon though. So yeah, so blood decays look very interesting. However, they are gonna be easily kiteable. That's probably one of the main issues I could see with that spec. So unless the blood strike could be stacks or something like that with their snare. So otherwise, I really don't see that much. So against classes like mages or anything else, decays are just gonna be blood decays are gonna be a disaster. Just imagine trying to gap close as a blood decay with no chain of ice. Like literally, that is gonna be pretty difficult thing to do. So, and they don't really have that much of a gap closers, and Wrathwalk is actually not that great. By the way, Wrathwalk is actually could be very useful if you like cancel the effect, and like explain when the pressure masters when they're closer to expansion. So blood decays pretty much are made to annoy melee players, but really they are not that threatening against the range players, because mages, hunters pretty much are gonna kite us forever. So that's gonna be a bane. That's gonna be most likely not a really hard counter, but relatively hard counter for the blood decays. So with that said, we'll see how it's gonna work out. But against like RMP, blood decays are gonna be kind of on the weak end. But against like TSG, blood decays could be absolutely freaking amazing with the amount of utilities they provide. So thanks guys for watching. I know it's a lengthy video, but blood decays did get a lot of changes. So yeah, it was awesome to talk about that. Thanks for watching, my friends, and до свидания.